While we're on the point of mentioning COBTREE Charity Trust, I would just like to point out that they have a new chairman, who is Sandra Natchpole. So we obviously welcome her as a committee to that post, and I'm sure she may be present at some meetings as we go forward into the future. I don't see anybody else.
Can I just correct that, Martin? Sandra Natchbull, B-U-L-L.
Bull. Okay.
Natchbull, yeah.
Or you would know, because she's from Bested, isn't she? So I do apologise for that.
It's well known to me. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chairman. Chairman, this is Paul from IT. I do apologise. We've just had a issue with the live stream at the moment. We've missed about Paul Holland's half of what he was saying, unfortunately. Can you give me about 2 minutes, if possible, if I can set up the stream again, if that's okay, please?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So we'll all just pause there, please, if you would.
Thank you.
I've registered that you want to do 1
presentation. So yeah. I think when we do start off again, if we just
are back with the COBTREE Manor Estate Charity Committee meeting on Tuesday the 26th of January. I will ask Mrs Snook, who is the facilitator, to once again just take a very quick roll call so that we can prove we were all here and are still all here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Cox.
Indeed, I am present.
Councillor Daly. Not yet. Councillor Mrs Gooch.
Present.
Councillor Perry.
Present.
And Councillor Springett.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Therefore, we will pick up where we believe we left off, which was just starting with item 12 for the accounts for 2019 to 20 on page 7 through until 65 on your agendas. I would like to call upon Mr. Paul Holland, Senior Finance Manager, to introduce his report.
Thank you, Chair. Take 2. So these are the accounts for 2019-20. It's for the year ending 31st of March 2020. There were no major issues identified during the course of the audit, and the auditors have indicated that they are happy to issue an unmodified audit opinion. There were a number of adjustments made to the draft accounts, but they've got no impact on the Trust's financial resources. So just to pick up on a couple of highlights from the accounts, total balance sheet funds have reduced from 5.17 million to 4.38 million. That's a decrease of 785,000. A couple of reasons for this. Firstly, it's a decrease in the value of the Charity Fund investment. You'll be aware of that from my previous financial position reports. And also a reduction in the value of the investment properties. You may recall from last year there was a question raised over the valuation methodology used by our valuers. And so it was changed, but following further discussions after last year's accounts were closed off between the auditors and our valuers, they've now accepted that our valuers' approach is the correct one. So this adjustment effectively resets the values to what they should have been and takes into account the latest valuations. Tyland Barn has also been revalued down to 0 value. This is because it's let on a 125-year long lease to the Kent Wildlife Trust, so it doesn't really have any value as such to the trust at the moment, or to the estate at the moment. So details of the adjustments to the draft accounts are shown at 3.4, and this includes depreciation on the play area, which is something the committee had previously indicated they would like to be included. Appendix 2 is a letter of representation. This seeks confirmation that all relevant information was supplied to the auditors during the course of their audit. And the final element is the audit findings report. So there were no new issues this year or no recommendations, no new recommendations. Just the point raised that's been there for a few years now about the need to just be aware of a potential tax liability for the car park income, which is a low risk, but something we'll keep an eye on just to be sure. So that's all I have to say. Again, I'm happy to take any questions that
Thank you very much,
may have.
Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. And if I may just take the opportunity, while we've mentioned the COBTREE Charity Trust Limited, you will probably be aware that Ms. Sandra Natchbull is now the chair of that part of the trust. And we wish her well, and I'm sure we will see her maybe attending some of our meetings in the future when we get the chance to actually meet face to face potentially. One thing I just want to bring up before I go to John's query about figures, possibly, is you say the value's been reduced on tile and barn to 0. Would that take issue if the thing ever had an accident or a call to go to insurance? Because if we're saying it's not worth anything, why would we insure it?
Well, this is more a value, I guess, for market purposes. If we were ever planning to sell it, I think there would be a different valuation for insurance, which would be a rebuild value. I presume it's covered under most COBTREE's assets are generally covered under the council's block policy, so it would have a reinstatement value, if you like. So I'd like to think if it did burn down, we would have
exactly
we would have recourse to insurance. Yes,
Luddite or witchcraft or something like that.
No, it's usually a different valuation for insurance generally. So
it hadn't come across my head, but then it did. So
it's a good point.
Clarifying that. Thank you, Councillor Perry. You have a question. John, you're
just a couple of points. Page 36, where you've got the debtors and creditors, that's an interesting balance between the debtors of 130k and the creditors of nearly 195k. That's an unusual ratio. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
The creditors does include the loan for the car park, which I think is probably why it's a slightly larger balance than you'd normally get. Yeah, I see your point. But yes, that's a reflection of the, and we hadn't paid last year's instalment at the time of closing the accounts off, partly because of the whole pandemic situation. We were quite mindful of the cash flow, and the council were quite happy just for us to sort of defer it for a while, just until we were sure of our position. So yeah.
And the auditors are obviously happy with that.
Yes, they're fully aware of the position.
Okay. The other question, I think you may have explained it, but I do, on page 37, the financial instruments, and you've got the financial assets, and that obviously is a big reduction, isn't it, from 2019 to 2020, and that is the reason for that is?
It's just the sort of the market issues caused by the pandemic, the valuations, I think, of investments all across the board, have fallen. And as I said, they have, well, as you'll see in my next report, they have started to recover. So I'll elaborate on that in my next report. But yes,
fine, okay, no, that's fine. The other, and of course, the financial assets measured at amortised costs, they've increased, and what's the reason for that?
I think that's probably a reflection of the car park loan as well.
Oh, it's the car park loan.
Yes, okay. Because it's classed as an asset for the purpose of this section. Yes, yeah.
No, thanks, Paul. That's
okay. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Perry. Just pointing out, both the Vice Chairman, Councillor Gooch, and myself have had a pre-brief on this where we were asking many questions, but we've had them satisfied, so I don't have anything further to bring up. Either Councillor Gooch or Councillor Springett, before I close this item down, anything to ask?
The only issue about having KCC on the paperwork, but you did explain it was because they were on the original lease. I think that was it anyway.
Yeah, that's our understanding. They were a named signatory. I think it would probably be quite long-winded to get them taken off at this stage, although I guess it's theoretically possible, but.
Yeah, it would be long-winded, but I just wonder if they are aware whether or not they have any responsibilities or whether or not it would curtail anything that we would want to do. Those are my only... I wouldn't want to be beholden to them for anything. That's my only concern.
Okay.
Chairman, I did have a quick word with the lady in the legal section who dealt with the lease executive, which is the Kent Young Farmers, and she confirmed that KCC was made a party to the 1971 lease and their consent is needed in relation to certain transactions. it's believed that this was to ensure that the estate continued to benefit the inhabitants of Maidstone and others. There are some things that we can do without consent, for example, an agricultural lease, but basically, yes, we do need to seek their consent the way that it's written at the moment. And if we did need to seek consent, we would approach the County Secretary for that.
May I ask that very useful information is minuted, please, because I think we do need to be fully aware of that. And thank you very much indeed, Mrs. Snook, for looking that out for me. I just think we just need to be aware and have it in the minutes, and I'll be a really happy bunny, and I won't keep on banging on about it.
Well, with the view to that being carried forward, Mrs. Snook, I think that's entirely beneficial that it's in the minutes, and then indeed Councillor Gooch won't ask that potentially ever again. So, thank you very much for doing that.
I'll put it in the minutes,
behalf.
Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So if we refer back to page 7, where the recommendations are, they are that the report of the financial statement for 2019-20 are approved and submitted to the Charity Commission. 2, that a letter of representation be approved, and also that the contents of the audit findings report be noted. I'm happy to propose.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you very much, John.
Chairman, sorry, it's Faye Gooch here again. Would it be appropriate, would this be an appropriate point to thank Mr. Holland for his work on preparing these papers?
Or even after the next one?
Oh, even after the next one, as long as we don't lose sight of it.
No. Okay, thank you. So, okay, so that is proposed and seconded. I'll take them all together. Is that all approved, everybody?
Approved.
Agreed.
Agreed. Approved. That's good. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So we will now move on to item 13, which is the estate financial position, which once again, so item 13 on page 66, I call upon Mr. Paul Holland to introduce the report.
Okay, thank you again, Chairman. Just a couple of points before I start. I will refer to the contract situation as part of my report. Perhaps I could suggest if you've got any detailed questions on the contracts, we talk about those in part 2, because obviously there are some commercial issues within those. So there's 2 parts to my report. Firstly, it's the current financial position, then there's the budgets for next year. So perhaps I'll talk about the current position first and take questions on that, and then we'll rinse and repeat with the budgets. So looking at the current position, we should hopefully this year be looking at a break-even position by the end of the financial year, but that of course is subject to all the contract sums being paid. At the moment, the figures do include an assumption that we will receive that contract income, because we feel we've got a reasonable expectation of receiving it, but of course that is subject to further discussion. Good news though is that car park income has continued to recover very strongly over the course of the year, despite the park being closed for a number of weeks at the start of the year. So that's certainly helped. No cash flow concerns at the moment, but that's something we do continue to monitor closely, because obviously if we do continue to have contract problems, that could become an issue down the line. Also some good news, as I alluded to in my last report, regarding the value of the investments. So they were 679,000. They'd gone down from 930,000 this time last year to 679,000. I think around this time last week they were now valued at 769,000. So that's a 90,000 increase. So they are trending in the right direction again. So hopefully they will continue to recover. So that's the current position. Happy to take any questions on that before we move on to the budgets.
Thank you very much. Yes, but certainly from my point, the charity fund is a long stretch thing. We have
absolutely yes.
Hold our nerve here and assume they will come back. Any questions, anybody? No? Anybody fumbling for a button? No? Right, okay. Thank you. If you'd like to carry on then, please, through to the budget 21-22, please, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the general approach was that we increased running costs by inflation where applicable, using basically the same basis the council have been using for their budgets. Contract income's been increased in line with the agreed schedules, but again, of course, that is subject to potential change. Insurance costs have been updated in line with estimated premium increases, and Appendix 3 to my report shows the updated recharges from the council for the work carried out on behalf of the trust. So the budgets themselves reflect the new management arrangement that's going to be coming into the park from the 1st of April. And there's a budget for a management fee of £130,000 payable for that. Savings have been found from staffing budgets and the repair and maintenance budgets, and we have retained a small overtime budget just in case that's needed. Security budget's been largely removed now as we've got the electronic gates in operation. And using those and a few other small savings, we've established a 20,000 sort of one-off budget for COVID-19 recovery issues. That's for either us ourselves or potentially the contractor, should they feel like there's anything we could do to help. So the repair and maintenance budgets are still there, but they've been renamed as hard landscaping now. And we're looking at the end of 21-22 as hopefully for an operational surplus of around about £79,000, which drops down to 50,000 after taking into account investment income and the car park loan repayment. Again, of course, as I've already mentioned, this again is subject to the contract income situation being resolved during the course of the year, so that could change. But obviously, I'll update on that as we go through the year. So that's the budget. So again, happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Indeed, yeah, it is good news about the gates going in there, which have given us the opportunity to make some savings, and indeed now with the depot operations being able to take over the responsibility of the grounds maintenance. So that's brilliant. Anybody else have any questions or statements?
Only me, Chairman, at the moment. Just to say, well held. When you think of the catastrophic year, and yet still we've managed to have a budget in front of us that's got all the bits in the right places, if I can put it like that in layman's terms. So thank you very much. I'm happy.
Well, Mike and Nigel at the park have done a lot of work to make sure the costs have been kept down. As I said, the car park income's recovered very, very strongly. To the extent it's like we're well over where we'd expect to be in a normal year, let alone a difficult year. So it's not been as bad as I think we all probably feared it was, sort of 9 months ago. So
people still need to go out and go to parks and pick up coffees and teas and light refreshment. So that's all good. Okay, well, I thought Faye was going to say thank you, but thank you very much, Paul, for your hard work. Yes.
Could I just ask a very quick question? It's only the recharges are always quite a sensitive area, and I just noted on Parks and Leisure, the draft charge is going up by about 6% from what I can see from my figures. Is there a reason for that? It's just a question.
What page are you on, John?
It's on page, Appendix 3, page 76.
Yeah.
I think that's just a reflection of increased time spent sort of looking at park matters, rather than anything sort of. It's not the actual charge itself. The hourly charge is the same, I think.
Same, all right, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just obviously it's been a little bit more time consuming with everything recently.
I think if you think back, John, we don't have Lizzie on site anymore.
We don't.
So realistically, in fact, when we looked at this in the briefing, I made comment that it's very nice to actually see it laid out. I'm sure you will both agree.
Absolutely,
It is good to see where we are and to know what each service that we are provided with is so detailed. We see the hourly rate, we can see and monitor if that's going up. And I think as far as the trust is concerned, we couldn't be in a more clearer position about what we wanted to get and what we're achieving.
It's a very transparent set of figures all round. Both these agenda items. So well done. Yeah, well done, Paul, and the whole team. Yeah, no, it was just a question. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think you can hear there from the whole committee. Thank you very much to you and anybody else who helps you with these, Paul. But I think, therefore, I can head to page 66, if I may, to the recommendations that are: 1, the current financial position be noted, and 2, that the proposals for the budgets for 21-22 are agreed as on the papers before you. I'm happy to propose.
I'll second that. Happy. Yeah.
Thank you very much, John. And therefore, are we all in agreement and support this?
Most certainly, yes. Agreed.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's move. Thank you, Paul. Let's move swiftly on then to item 14, the update report, starting on page 77 of your report pack. And therefore I turn to, wouldn't that be good if you could turn to someone virtually? But I will ask Mike Evans, the leisure manager, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. So this is quite a short report on the estate update this afternoon, which reflects the kind of ongoing lockdown situation we've experienced on site since the 5th of November when we last met. So we last met during the November lockdown. Since then, Maidstone's gone into Tier 3, which hampered some of the activities on site. We then moved into 4, which caused further restrictions, caused the golf course to close, and Kent Life sadly to close and curtail its Christmas and Christmas grotto activities. And then we find ourselves now in lockdown again, and everything continues to be closed. There are some activities to draw your attention to, though. As Paul's already mentioned, the Manor Park continues to be very, very busy, and the car park income reflects that. The winter tree works that were previously approved are nearly all finished. There's a couple of snagging items I'm sure that need to be picked up. And the play area repairs, we're still awaiting items from the manufacturers, but those works have gone ahead to make sure that the park is well presented and available for everyone who wants to come this autumn. It continues to be really, really busy despite the weather. The car park traffic regulations order that was previously recommended, that's been fully implemented now with help from our colleagues in parking services, and the 6-hour limit is in place for paid tickets on the day and for new permits. Existing permits signed up on the basis they were having their terms and conditions for 12 months. So we need to wait for those conditions to filter through for everybody. But within the 12-month period, everyone will be on the new criteria, which again makes the park more available for more people, which is forgive me, Chair, the sentiment of that people remind the time it was never about making it harder for people, it was about making the park more available for everybody else. Under the staffing, yes, we've begun the consultation. It was mentioned in Paul's report, and that's going to bring the resilience and the flexibility to the park operations. A time when we need it particularly. That will be in place by the 1st of April 2021. So we've got a nice period of time to get the consultation finished and then start at the start of a financial year, which makes sense for tying up all the figures afterwards. Golf course, I mentioned it's closed, but the improvement works continue to go through the planning process. And we're in talks with the operator there about when the best time for those to commence is. I mentioned Kent Life is closed. They've applied for some restrictions grants. They previously didn't fall under any of the categories, but they have since, with the ever-emerging number of grants that are available, there are some that they would meet the criteria for now. I don't have an update on their application, but as soon as I'm aware of it, I'll pass that on to members. The cafe has remained open in Tier 3 and 4, operating on a takeaway basis. And yes, you're right, Chair, the park needs to be available for everyone at these times. It's more important than ever, and those light refreshments do make a difference to people. The COBTREE Men in Sheds group was unable to meet, and the Elephant House building issues have not been progressed since the last meeting, which was the plan. That's to remind people, that was the plan to wait for better times when those building works can be commenced properly. And then we do have a new update for you on the residential properties. One of them is now vacant. The tenant came to the end of the lease there and didn't want to renew. So I'm working with colleagues in housing services to work out the best plan for this property going forward, and then potentially the other properties too. We have the contracts update report for all the commercially sensitive bits, so we can cover those in the next report. But if members have got any questions about the general updates, I'm happy to take those.
Thank you very much, Mike. Very concise report. Always good to hear a concise report. Do any members have anything? Faye, please carry on.
Thank you, Chairman. There seems to be an awful lot that you've had to manage, Mike. Despite COVID, I think people seem to think that because we're in lockdown, that everything else locks down. But actually, amongst all the other plates you have to spin, somehow you've kept a handle on each of these aspects that are part of the trust's interests, as well as managing contractual issues and bits and pieces, on top of having worked out a streamlined way of working with effect from April. And I just wanted to express my appreciation and my absolute awe. Whatever tablets you're on, can I have one, please? I don't know how you managed to keep all these plates spinning, but thank you very, very much for what you're managing to do in these climes. Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Gooch. That's very kind. I can't take all the credit. Obviously, there's a team on site that work day to day. I'm sure they have a much harder job than me going out and actually doing everything in the park. And also, as Paul mentioned earlier, I have the kind of easier job of just saying we can't spend this money at the moment, and they have to work out a way of what they can do with the resources that are made available to them. So, yeah, they have I give them the problem for them to solve, should we say? And then the contracts officer, Steve, supports very well as well.
In that contract support. Do please spread it about a bit, meaning our appreciation. Please spread it amongst the team, because I know that they do a damn good job. Thank you.
I will do, thank you.
I'm sure you'll appreciate, Mike, that Faye's words obviously are from all of us as well. But I think if it was in more normal times, we would jump in the car and come up and see everybody and say our thank you. So please pass that on when you find time. I will turn to Councillor Perry now, please.
Yes, I totally agree with what's just been said. And well done, Mike, and all the team. It's very positive, actually, given the terrible situation we're all in. So it's very good to hear. Just a quick question. You recall, I mean, one of the members of the golf club has been sort of in contact with me, and I know I raised this with you. Have all those points that have been raised by the golf members been resolved at the moment, or are there still issues? I was just curious more than anything else.
Yes, so a number of them have been resolved. What we've done with the operation at the golf course is they're talking in more detail with the club committee. So the club committee and the club captain is the kind of elected representatives of the membership, and we can always deal with one or two queries when they come in. But when we get a number of queries, it's really important that we kind of don't go around that democratic process and start talking to people and giving them more information than the club committee have got and the captain's got, because then that kind of undermines the process. So what we've done is we've sent all the comments that we've had so far through the committee and then through the captain, and my time active staff are talking to the committee in more detail and then disseminating the information back to members. It's just a kind of better way of doing things. Otherwise, some people feel they've got more access to information than other people, and it has the potential to undermine that committee process. So, yeah, all the answers are flowing in that way.
Oh, that's very good to hear. Thanks, Mike. I think that's the right approach, actually. I totally agree. So, yeah, well done, everybody. And keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay, well, anybody else wish to say anything? In which case, just before I ask us to go to look on page 77, I don't think there'll be many on the committee that will know that after this afternoon or this evening's Earl committee, Mike will be taking some paternity leave. Oh. I'm sure you all know and understand what that means, but indeed COVID has been very, very productive. But we wish you all the best, Mike, to yourself and your good lady. And we hope everything is fine, and you'll be able to report back to us at a later stage with how it all went. But not wanting to confuse anything in the issue here, please all turn. So our best to you both. But agenda item 14 then. This report makes the following recommendations to this committee at this point, that the contents of the report are noted. All agreed?
All agreed. Well, I'm agreed. Sorry, not all agreed.
Yeah, I'm with you there, John.
Okay, well, thank you very much. In which case, let me just get this right, because Debbie's given me the right words. And therefore, we're about to move to the part 2 item. I therefore move that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business because it's likely to disclose exempt information for the reasons specified on the agenda, having applied the public interest test. Is this agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
Thank you. Paul, would you please stop the recording?
I will do. The recording is now stopped. Thank you.
Thank you very much.